Hello, today I'm going to talk about Kodak Pro Image 100. I just shot my first roll and I'd like to share my first impressions. The good news is that I had a great experience shooting this first roll. I don't know if you remember, but about a month or two ago, I shot a roll of expired film of Konica Minolta JX100. It's color film, supposedly. And I went to a park where there was a cool statue and I took a bunch of shots. I was very excited to see what the results would be like, but that film turned out to be very damaged and the lab had to scan it in black and white and basically boost everything to get any sort of image. So that was a little bit disappointing. So what I did with this roll of Kodak Pro Image 100 was actually to reshoot a bunch of those shots, because this is new film and so I knew that I could rely on it to get better results. And I'm happy to say that Kodak Pro Image 100 pulled through and really came out with some great results. With this first roll of Kodak Pro Image 100, I shot in three types of light. Direct, midday, super strong sunlight, then kind of end of day, waning sunlight, and finally interior light. So maybe let's start with the super hard, middle of the day, super strong sunlight. These photos were shot in Madrid. Spain, of course, gets a lot of sunlight. And yep, you can definitely see that in these shots. So some of these shots I overexposed. And in the ones that I did, I think that you'll see one of two things. Either there's a slight loss of contrast and maybe color saturation. And then in this one portrait shot with like some cypress trees on either side of a path that goes down towards a bridge, which I also overexposed, I think there's a slight tone shift of the whole image, very slight, but towards the greens. For me, it's pleasing. It's a very small trade-off to get more detail from the shadows. In other shots where I didn't overexpose or overexpose as much, I think you can see that you're getting punchy colors. In the shots of the statue's called La Dama del Manzanares, you see that there's plenty of detail in the stonework, and also you can see the color of the metal rings that orbit the statue's head. Even though, you know, statues don't necessarily have vibrant colors, it's really cool to see how this film was able to pull out that detail and color, which, you know, is not easy. And then aside from that, you know, the sky, the clouds and everything, there's plenty of detail there, and the color is vibrant as well. Another thing that I really like about Kodak Pro Image 100 is how it renders greens. Greens are very lively and lifelike. That is something that I value a lot. Very happy to see that. And you can see that in all of these examples. There's lots of trees in this park. You can see plenty of detail in the leaves, and the greens are pleasing and true to life overall. Next up, maybe we can have a look at the sort of end of day photos. There's some photos of a river that cuts across the park. And once again, even though the light is waning, we see that there is plenty of detail in the trees, that the green is vibrant, and that there's plenty of detail also in the shadows. Then there's this other shot of an amphitheater, and there's like some like wooden steps and then some grass, alternating wooden steps and grass. And the grass has the green has a slightly warm tone, slightly reminiscent maybe of Gold 200, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But overall, it's a very balanced image, very pleasing, even though, you know, you'd think that maybe the light wasn't there for a 100 ISO film. The result is still very pleasing. Let's go next to the interior shots, which I shot in this venue in the center of Madrid called Sala X, which is a former cinema that's being converted into a bar and a cinema, or an art house cinema now. Interior lighting, muted in some places, but I think you can see that there's still plenty of detail in these shots. The colors, once again, this is a common theme, are pleasing. There's plenty of detail in the shadows. Repeating myself at this point. And, you know, I just don't think that 100 ISO film has any business looking this good indoors without a flash, at least in my experience. If you think I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments. But again, I think that Kodak Pro Image 100 is a very high performing film, especially for its price, but it still has that film quality, which is what we're all after. So you're getting lots of detail, punchy colors without being oversaturated, and fairly forgiving dynamic range latitude. I mean, I wouldn't go crazy with overexposing it or anything, but it's very impressive. And I think you can see that with these indoor shots where there's a mix of artificial light and kind of indirect light. Really, really very impressive. So now maybe to kind of close out the video, I can compare Kodak Pro Image 100 to other color Kodak film stocks that I've shot. Namely, it's going to be mainly two, Gold 200 and Ultramax 400. Kodak Pro Image 100 is much more neutral than Gold 200. I found that Gold 200, and I've shot it both in 35mm and medium format, so 120. I find that it kind of veers into warmth too much for my taste. Sometimes that's a good thing, but other times it is a bit distracting, to be honest. And then with Ultramax 400, obviously it's a higher ISO film. The colors are a lot punchier on Ultramax 400. Maybe in some cases, one could argue, slightly oversaturated. But then there's also more grain, which is understandable because it's higher ISO film. But then that means that you lose some detail. Then meanwhile, Kodak Pro Image 100, I think since I was shooting it with a Canon SLR, and sort of automatic Canon SLR, so the, let's see if I can pull it out here, the EOS 300, which is a sort of entry level, here it is, upside down kind of. It's an entry level Canon SLR from the late 90s or early 2000s, I'm not too sure. So obviously, you know, using the nifty 50, using the 28 millimeter f2.8, and then in some of these shots you've also seen some sort of longer distance shots. I used a 55 to 200 millimeter EF lens. You can really appreciate the level of detail that Kodak Pro Image 100 is able to render, especially compared to some of these other film stocks. Those are the main two film stocks I can compare it to, because I've shot them recently and I've shot them with this SLR camera. I've also shot Portra 160 and Portra 800, but it was a while ago, and I did so on a point and shoot, so I really can't sort of compare it directly. But hopefully these examples in various lighting conditions give you a good idea of what Kodak Pro Image 100 is capable of. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, have a good one.